your Chargers linebacker, Dan Henley, and you're tuning in with Chargers Unleashed.
Welcome to another edition of Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Dan Wolkenstein here with you from the LAFB Network. Today's show, of course, being brought to you by BetOnline, Charger Bolt Family, and Rock Solid Sports Memorabilia. If this is your first time tuning into the show, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Dan Wolkenstein, we've been waiting all day. I don't know how much work you got done today. I got done very little. Obviously, the anticipation was palpable as we were all waiting for the release of the 2023 NFL season schedule for the Los Angeles Chargers. And just when you think they can't do it again, one more time, the Chargers social media team has to prove to everybody why they are the best in the business, still remaining undefeated. Once again, came out with the anime theme release video. And oh my Lord, there is so much to pull apart from this video. So many golden nuggets that are just pure perfection.
We're going to go through the release video that the Chargers did. Not necessarily frame by frame, but get through some of the highlights. We'll do some screen sharing here in a bit. Obviously, we'll talk about the schedule, games that are most interesting, storylines, things like that. This is Chargers Unleashed live, so you know what it is. If you are in the comments, if you're watching live, give us your reactions, give us your comments, give us your topics. We'll do our best to incorporate them as best as we can. We already got a ton of folks in here, Jake. We've got Family Trust Respect. We got Kevin James in here. Bolt up, baby. Robert Peck says BTFU with a bunch of dots. This video was lots of fire emojis. Shout out to the Chargers social media team and the content team. My goodness, they did not hold anything back. So much fun, so much to get into. 6 primetime games for your Los Angeles Chargers that we're going to be getting into. Jake, before we get into that, let's pay the bills.
Of course.
Over or under, how many FTRs have you seen in the Chargers release video? I'm going to put it at 3.5. How many? Did you see any more or less than that?
I didn't think I saw any more than that. So I think we're in agreement. Anyways, that'll make that one.
Did you see the casino?
Of course,
resort one.
Of course, I saw the casino. But as far as the FTRs,
we'll get to it.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and watch the video on that one. But I want to remind everybody that BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sporting betting needs this season. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports and events. Just make sure that you head on over to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. All you got to do is use that promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV to receive your rewards. BetOnline, where the game starts.
So, Jake and friends, family all over the country. Ruben Trevino comes in. Finally got to catch a live stream with us, Bolt Gang. Ruben, welcome to the show. Thanks for chiming in. If you have not already done so, please hit that like and subscribe while we're talking. It takes literally 5 seconds, helps out a ton, and also helps us out with feedback. Lets us know how we're doing. Jake, so I say we kind of get right into it. 17 games. What were your first kind of impressions of the release?
I mean, it's like, okay, they're going to do the anime thing again. Let's go back. Let's watch it. And obviously last year's was so good. It was so good. You're watching it. And at first, you're not catching every little nugget that's in there. And, you get some obvious ones that come across with the Las Vegas Raiders, with the Detroit Lions, with the Kansas City Chiefs that are just perfect. But then you go back and you watch some of these other frames and you just, you look a little bit closer and you're like, oh my God, these are beautiful. Beautiful.
Yes. So for folks who are watching, we're going to kind of go through this a little bit as we speak. We're going to get to some of the fun ones that we saw. First off, Jake, we get to week 3.
I love this frame, by the way. I was dying laughing when the bird starts sliding off the side of the AT&T Bank Stadium.
Oh man, okay, I couldn't read
the U.S. Bank Stadium.
I couldn't read the part that they had on here because it wasn't high def. But did you see the in the corner here at the stadium?
Little nuggets.
We got number 1 NFLPA team, Justin Jefferson, offensive rookie of the year,
runner up.
Mentioned him in a Lizzo song. Timberwolves play in winter 2022 and fun game versus the Bills 2022 week 10.
Wow. Wow.
They did not disappoint. Obviously, Chargers had to go in on the Raiders, and they did so. Started off, they had the
basically everybody that they were hoping to possibly get before they ended up going with Jimmy Garoppolo.
And they end up getting lucky. Jimmy Garoppolo all the way through. Oh, Jake, family trust respect up there in the top.
Okay, there it is. That one I didn't catch that one. Nice.
So Chargers, look, we have a week 5 bye. Let's talk about that first, actually. What are your thoughts on a week 5 bye early on in the season?
It's a little bit earlier than what you would traditionally like. You would probably normally want to get somewhere in the middle just so it could be an even keel for you. Chargers have had a variety of different scenarios with this. Obviously, there's been ones where you've had guys that are hurt early in the season and you're just trying to rest your guys as much as you can for a second season push. And then other ones, other scenarios that you have for that, it's like, okay, well, do you want to take a rest that early and then just have the rest of the season play out depending on what happens? So, there's consequences on both. Really, there is. So we'll just see how it ends up playing out. Not too excited about that because especially the last 7 weeks of the season are brutal as far as matchup goes for the Chargers. The NFL schedule makers definitely did not hold back when it came to putting the Chargers not only in primetime games, but against pretty damn good opponents during those last 7-week stretches.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of having the bye week early. I know it's brutal as you get later on in the season when you have that many weeks in a row. But honestly, I kind of like it. It gives the team a chance to reset a little bit here. I do think I was kind of pull up the full schedule. So let's go through those first games just before the bye, and let's kind of decipher a little bit. So week 1, Chargers go in against the Dolphins at home. Chargers get a week 1 home game against Tua and the crew. Then week 2, they get to go up against the Tennessee Titans, and we'll see what that team looks like. Not sure. Minnesota Vikings, September 23rd, week 3. And then the Raiders closing out the first 4 games, Sunday, October 1st, heading into the bye week. Dolphins, Titans, Vikings, Raiders. It's kind of a fun intro.
I love the opener. I absolutely love the opener. I'm not going to lie.
Popcorn.
Especially if you heard a certain commentator, I believe it was yesterday, when he was selecting his top 5 teams in the AFC, he happened to leave out a certain team and insert his own favorite team in a certain spot that was very humorous, but very on point.
I did not see this.
Oh, yes. So Dolphins, basically, it was kind of like this almost was like a mini, Super Bowl for the Chargers when the Chargers played the Dolphins last year. Obviously, there was all this hype up for this game last year. And in my opinion, it was the best coached game from Brandon Staley and Joe Lombardi last year on how they chose to execute it both offensively and defensively. Obviously, it's going to look completely different when the Chargers go up against the Dolphins this year. And there's going to be some familiar faces on the opposite side of the ball. Obviously, Vic Fangio, who Brandon Staley knows very, very well, stepping in there as defensive coordinator, and Jalen Ramsey, who is now an added piece of that Miami defense as well. So we'll see what it ends up looking like, Dan, but that's a good one to start off the season. Obviously, there's going to be if week 1 to start the season in general for any NFL team was not hyped enough, this one's going to get the hype. I guarantee you.
Thunder Alley is going to be crazy for week 1. Finally, we get a week 1 at home. That's going to be wild. So 2 home games in the first month, 1 against the Raiders, 1 against the Dolphins. Get those right out of the way. 2 road games against the Titans and the Vikings. I kind of like that those are the 2 road games. From a road game perspective, the atmosphere isn't too crazy. I mean, Minnesota's Minnesota, but they're very kind people, for being honest. And then Tennessee fans, whatever. There could have been a lot worse going away. If we went away to the Dolphins and away to Vegas, a little bit different atmosphere. So,
Titans game would be interesting to see. Titans game last year had one of the best finishes of Justin Herbert's young career.
At that one, yep.
Unbelievable throw to Mike Williams on the sideline to set up the game-winning field goal. But Tennessee's going to be tough, man. I know that personnel-wise, it does not look like they have the best roster, but just Mike Vrabel's guys come to play. And defensively, they still have a lot of their horses. So I know that they're remolding offensively. I was interested to see where the Titans was going to fall on the schedule, because depending on what their record was, where are they going to, have Ryan Tannehill sit, and then were you going to insert Will Levis into the lineup? But being this early, it's probably still going to be Ryan Tannehill at the helm. So we'll see what that brings to us. Minnesota in week 3, I like that one. Eric Kendricks gets a little bit of a home game of sorts, even though he's back home in LA. In a way, he's going back to Minnesota. And the last time that the Chargers played the Vikings, obviously the Vikings got the better of the Chargers 2 years ago. So that, there's some games on here when you mark it. I'm sure Justin Herbert has as well, where there are some teams that he has not beaten yet. And going into year 4, he's got those ones circled, I'm sure. So we'll get into the rest of these. But that Minnesota game from 2 years ago, you kind of want that back. That was not the best performance back in 2021. I would hope, especially in a week 3 matchup, that it would be a lot better. And the Chargers and Justin Herbert should be better outfitted for it.
Obi-Wan Kavobi, friend of the show, comes in with a comment. Wins at 3.5 by the bye week, over or under? That's a little bold, but 3.5. Dolphins, Titans, Vikings, Raiders. I'm going under. I'm usually the optimist, but going 4-0, like,
what do you say? You think that they split 2-2?
I think at best they go 3-1. If it's a big asterisk on if they are blank, but right. if they are blank, I'm gonna go 3-1. What do you have?
You know what? I'll be bold. I'll still say 3-1.
Okay.
I was really leaning towards 2-2.
Yeah. You were too. Weapon X says over, going 4-0. Chorizo Combe Papas. I love this guy. Thanks for coming in again. 3-1 at worst. I need to see 4-0 if this team is supposed to be legit, says Scott Childs. Lofty expectations. People are kind of expecting like perfection here. This is going to be tough to please everyone if you're trying to get 4-0 or else they're bad. HH4 Eternal Optimist comes back to the show. 5-12 total rebuild in 2024.
Just blow it all up.
I'm pretty confident that that's not going to happen. Go Paul says 4-0 at worst. Who is the loss to, Jake? Asked Robert Peck before we get to the bye. 3-1, who are we losing?
I would assume that it's going to come to either Miami or Minnesota. That would be my guess.
Yeah. That Miami game is going to be. There's a lot of storylines in there.
There's a lot in there. And it's, again, home opener, a lot of hype, a lot of connections between coaches and former players. So both teams are going to come out to fight. That one's going to be a tough matchup. So if they're able to get past Miami, then I'd say that the one that they have the biggest chance of dropping would then be to Minnesota in week 3.
Yeah. If they could come out of week 1 with a win, that's going to be fun. Well, I'm curious, when does JC Jackson playing in that one? You saw JC Jackson
today. I mean, everything
today's talking about going to be picking off Patriots.
Sounds good. We've seen his training videos. Everything has looked optimistic at this point. If he comes back and he is ready for week 1, I will be legitimately shocked.
I'm saying it right now. If JC Jackson is back week 1, we're going to do a JC Jackson Chargers jersey giveaway. Book it. If it happens, we're doing it.
If it happens.
Man of the people. We're doing JC Jackson.
And if it doesn't, you just rob people of that opportunity. If
it doesn't, we'll probably do one later, but it's just kind of kicking that can down the road. All right, so week 5 bye week. They can't lose that week, which is great. All right, let's go to the next quarter, excuse me. Monday night, prime time against the Cowboys at home, away against the Chiefs. Again, prime time against the Bears, and again, prime time against the Jets. 3 out of 4 prime time games in 4 weeks. Chiefs, Bears, Jets, all after the Monday night game against the Cowboys. Kellen Moore gets redemption, gets to go up against his Cowboys. All 4 of those games are tough, man. Bears are going to be very different this year. You saw the Chargers media clip on the Rebuild-A-Bear.
That was funny. The little Mitch Trubisky's, you got McMahon's name up there. Basically all like the sexy Rexy, Rex Grossman, all the little references to the best quarterbacks of Chicago history, which, some took them to Super Bowls. Only one of them ended up winning it. But all of the prestigious so-called quarterbacks, it's like, yeah, come on, let's get this thing back to working a little bit more.
Yeah, Kellen Moore has a little something extra for that game. Coming out of a bye week, you're giving Kellen Moore that? Like, that's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. I think that might be a breakout game for Quentin Johnston. Utilizing him for that could be fun. Of these four, what's your favorite? Kevin James asked, game that you guys are most looking forward to. Let's just take it for the first 8 weeks that we've talked about. First 8 games, excuse me.
You always have to circle the Chiefs. I mean, even as expectations go, regardless of whether or not people think that we'll go 0-2 against the Chiefs, which is still, unfortunately, very likely that will happen. You could split. But just the Chargers and the Chiefs game, regardless of the final score, is still just damn exciting. You just need to learn how to finish. You just need to learn how to finish and put them away. So you always circle the Chiefs as far as the ones that you're ramped up for. Obviously, I mentioned Miami.
I think I'm going Miami.
Miami is a huge one to start the season. I would love to see a statement made by Kellen Moore against Mike McCarthy, just to say,
it was me.
It was me. Look what you could have done with me having a little bit more control of this offense. Because I personally think with him now at the helm, and Brandon Staley, is basically just, he'll add in his 2 cents, as Jeff Miller had told us. He'll add in his 2 cents when he wants to as far as the play calling goes. But this is basically full autonomy for Kellen Moore to do whatever he wants to with this offense. And I'm so excited to see what he's going to bring to it. But Dan, I mean, kind of the order of this. So you have a Monday Night Football. I mean, this really actually blows, in my opinion. This as far as just not only that's just the primetime aspect, but look at the order of this. So you have a Monday Night Football game against the Cowboys. Then you have a Sunday night game against the Chiefs. Then you have is that the Thursday night game against Sunday. The Bears? Or that's a Sunday night game. Okay. Yep. But still, even just to have Monday to Sunday going between the Cowboys and the Chiefs is brutal.
But then you flip it, though. Then you go Sunday to Monday.
Yeah, I mean, you do get that extra day's rest. I mean, trust me, we're not even to the final 7 weeks of the season yet, and I'll get to that when we get there. But
I'm glad that in that 4-game stretch there is no Thursday night football. I mean, there are two sides to look at that. You have the short week, and then you have the long week, so it kind of goes both ways. That could be a mini bye, which and then Chargers kind of have that mini bye later on in the season, right? From Raiders to Bills,
and then the Jets by week. What is that? By week 8 or by week 9?
Yep.
Jets by week 9. What is that team going to look like? You know what they look like defensively. So you added some offensive weapons and you added a much better quarterback, which I'm not going to lie, the Zach Wilson teases on the video of the Chargers schedule release video might come close to being my favorite as far as the little Easter eggs that are plugged in there with Zach Wilson. They are so good. But this stretch, Dan, is interesting, man. 3 primetime games. You got to love that. 3 and 4 weeks. That's going to be a fun little stretch right after the bye.
James Wagner comes in. Toughest schedule in a few years, honestly. He's not wrong. We thought the same thing about last year's schedule, too.
Tied for 12th in strength of schedule as far as the hardest goes.
Yeah, so there's a question in here asking what would be the favorite game to go to if we had to go to a game. It's not in this one. It'll be in the next quarter of the season, which I think I'm planning on actually going to. So stay tuned for that. So Cowboys, Chiefs, Bears, Jets. We said 3-1. What do you think about this? That Cowboys game is going to be brutal.
The Cowboys game is going to be nasty.
That's a win, though. I think it's a win. That Chiefs game is probably a loss.
I say that you'll split this. I say you'll split these 4.
All right, so 2-2. So that means you'll make us 5-3 going into the third quarter of the season, in which we have Lions at home, away to Lambeau Field. I think I'm going to try to go to that one, actually. Then home primetime game against the Ravens. Lamar Jackson's back. They actually got a receiver now or 2. Odell Beckham's there. Like, it's a pretty good squad. And then follow that up with the New England Patriots, who, look, J.C. Jackson called him out. He says that he's going to hopefully pick off Mac Jones week 13.
I give J.C. Jackson a great shot at being back at least by that game. So that makes me feel real encouraged about that. But this stretch, Dan, so first of all, the Lions, even outside of the Chargers schedule, Lions have to open up against the Chiefs. Like, what are you doing, NFL schedule makers?
That sucks.
Like, why don't you just gift them the win, for crying out loud? What are we doing here?
Look, didn't the Lions go like
Look,
8
I
and
love
9?
these,
They
I love
trounced the Packers and the season.
I love
by that point they'll have Jameson Williams back after his.
But come on, do you think that the Chiefs are really going to drop their opening game in which they're going to be raising their Super Bowl banner? I don't, unfortunately.
I'm just saying it's not going to be a cakewalk. That's all I'm saying.
No, but I love me some Dan Campbell. I really do, and I love the way that his players play for him, even in games that they lose. So, Lions. The interesting about this one is, Dan, is that by the time that the Chargers play the Lions, Jameson Williams will be back from his suspension for, unfortunately, betting on games. So you may get a full wide receiver complement that the Chargers defense will have to go up against this week against the Lions. So that's going to be a tough game, dude. It's going to be a tough game. Packers will see. I mean, even with all the weapons that they've added over the last 2 years, Christian Watkins, Dubs, you go 2 tight ends that you draft this year. Is that going to be enough for Jordan Love? What is he going to look like at this point in the game? We'll see. That'll be an interesting one. And that'd be I will say this, Dan. Lambeau in November is not ideal. It's not ideal. You wish you could have gotten this game a little bit earlier.
Better than December?
I mean, a little bit, I guess.
Honestly, I don't care. I want to see Justin Herbert in the cold. Like, that's what happens in playoff football. Like, sure, let's do it. I'd also probably rather play the Packers without Aaron Rodgers, if I'm being honest. Granted, we played the Jets with Aaron Rodgers earlier, so it kind of washes out.
Right.
Folks in the comments are talking about which games that they are going to. We've got folks talking about going to the Titans game, going to the Ravens game. Got folks going to the Bills game, looks like. Got a lot of folks in here going to some of these games. In the comments, which game are you most excited for? Which game do you think is the most important game of this season? Which, Jake, we're going to get into here in a second. Most important game, all things considered. I know every week's just 1 week, but I think there are many storylines for many different outcomes. So, Jake, in this one, we have, let's see, Lions, Packers, Ravens, Patriots.
You have to start with, are you asking like which one I'm hyped about the most?
No. What's the win-loss record on this? We're 5-3 right now.
You see, because starting at the Ravens is where it just all starts going downhill for the Chargers. Not just winner losses. I'm talking about from this point on till the end of the season. This schedule sucks. It's probably got to be one of the worst back-end schedules of the entire league as far as the Chargers get this. You play against the Ravens, who are going to have a reinvigorated offense. Lamar Jackson's back under a long-term contract, having arguably the best weapons that he's had since he's been in the NFL. The Patriots have had the Chargers and specifically Justin Herbert's number since he's been in the league. You got trounced the first time during his rookie season, 45-0. You lost in 2021, 27-24. Belichick just knows how to play the Chargers. So I don't care if it's Mac Jones at quarterback for that team. He just knows how to coach against the Chargers. And then you go Broncos, Raiders, Bills, Broncos, Chiefs. Oof.
The Broncos is honestly, I think the saving grace will be if the Broncos are not good again.
We'll see.
But it's a divisional game. It's never going to be easy.
We'll see. But out of these four, Dan, I'd probably say I would be most excited about the Ravens game. I think there's a lot of offensive firepower that could be had there. And obviously with Lamar Jackson's dynamic self, as far as, fingers crossed, he's not injured by that point in time. But I think that now you see what the Ravens are trying to reinvent. And then you have, Todd Monken, who just came there from Georgia. How is he going to reinvent that Baltimore Ravens offense? So I think I'm excited about that one. And it's also prime time. So, why could you not be excited about that one?
Achilles Smith comes in. Has Justin Herbert ever beaten the Ravens? That's the game I circled. Quentin Johnston and Zay Flowers, who wins. That'll be fun. Look, I actually like Chargers against some of those shifty wide receivers. Their slot performance is actually pretty good. Like, I think Asante Samuel Jr. lines up very well with those kinds of players. Bryce Callahan did. We'll see where he goes. You got JC, Josier Taylor. So many J's. My goodness. I actually don't mind those kind of burners, if you will. So what do you have? I'm splitting this one too. I have 3-1 in this stretch.
You have 3-1 in this stretch. Who do you see the loss to?
Probably the Ravens. We going up against mobile quarterbacks has always been our kryptonite.
It's funny. If you were to ask anybody 3 years ago and you gave them the same slate of 4 games and you were to ask him, well, what's the best matchup between both teams offensively? Nobody probably would have picked the Lions 3 years ago.
Probably not.
I don't care what the record is. That's probably going to be a good offensive battle as well.
Time out. Obi-Wan Kenobi's at Chipotle right now. Jake and Dan, do you want anything? Look,
I never say no to Chipotle.
Literally, before you're coming on the show, I'm like, man, Chipotle sounds so good. Obi-Wan, if you are anywhere near me, yes, I would take you up on that. Thank you for the offer. Damn it, now I want Chipotle.
Just DoorDash it, buddy. Just DoorDash.
Okay, fine. Okay, so what do you have?
This is another one where I've got them 2-2.
All right, so I've got them 5-3, 6, 7, 8-4. You've got them 7-5. Okay. Coming up to the end. So, folks, I'll put some of these comments on here. Robert Peck says Thursday Night Football at the Raiders will be the most important. I mean, it's definitely going to be important. Folks are saying that there's going to be importance in the first game against Miami, getting off to a good start. I think that's fair. Honestly, it's hard not to say those Chiefs games. If the Chargers can beat the Chiefs in one of those, I think that's a statement. The Cowboys game, to me, Cowboys-Dolphins, both of those games, there are so many storylines in those. If it's not a Chiefs game, it's one of those two for me. But again, you get into December football, which we haven't talked about yet, but that Bills matchup is going to be juicy on Peacock. Oh my goodness. They're about to get a whole bunch of new subscribers for that one. So, Jake, we're getting into the meat of it. The one that you said was the worst part. The last quarter, last lap of the season, they go up away against the Broncos, home Thursday night against the Raiders. Then they got to go, away against the Raiders, Then they are home against the Bills, followed by away against the Broncos. Now,
it's nasty, dude.
Followed by the Chiefs game.
It's nasty.
like I'm missing a game here.
It's nasty. You get, of the last 5 weeks of the season, 4 of them are divisional games. That's brutal. Again, take it even wider than that. You go all the way back to starting at the Ravens game and take it from every game from that point on until the end of the season. That is a nasty, nasty stretch of games. So we obviously get to see if the Broncos are able to put it together towards late in the season. That's when the Chargers are going to know this. So what is Sean Payton going to be able to do with Russell Wilson? Is he going to be able to fix him? A lot of people already have believed that is going to be the case. The Raiders have reloaded a few things on offense, have a new quarterback. We'll see how that ends up playing out with Josh McDaniels. They still got a couple people that I know that Dan and myself would have liked to have grabbed in the draft. That is for sure. And that Buffalo Bills game, man. Oh, having it that late in the season against an opponent like that, Sean McDermott. This is one point I want to make, Dan.
Dalton Kincaid.
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, that goes without saying. Yes. But no, just in general. This is one of the things that I had mentioned, I want to say all the way back in February after the Chargers season ended. Brandon Staley has to start having a better record against veteran head coaches. Last year against those, he was 4-6. He has to do a better job. And there are a plethora of veteran coaches on this roster that he's going to have to figure out some way to beat. Obviously, in your own division, a lot of Chargers fans at some point wanted Sean Payton, and he ends up going to Denver. Still got to contest with one of the best in the business, and Andy Reid. Sean McDermott is on this list now. Bill Belichick is on this list now. Those are the games when you go back and you look at as far as when Brandon Staley has coached, he doesn't have the best track record against veteran head coaches. So I hope that with inserting a more, fluid offensive coordinator that is able to put up points against the opposition, that is going to end up producing better results for them. And then hopefully, if that's been able to present better results, you got to hope that the defense is going to be better. The defense has to get better with this team. We've been waiting for 2 years for it essentially to happen, and it hasn't taken the jump that we all thought it was going to take yet. Is this going to be the year? In my opinion, it kind of has to be. It kind of has to be.
Kevin James says, we are going to see real quick if the Chargers are for real with this schedule. So folks in the comments, what are your predictions for the Chargers record-wise? I know it's early. We know things can change, but as of now, what do you have through 18 weeks, 17 games? Jake, so I have us at 8-4 going into this final stretch. We got 5 games left. Broncos, Raiders, Bills, Broncos, Chiefs. I think we win the home game against the Chiefs. I think that's the one that we split. I think we probably split the Broncos games. So that's 2 wins. That Raiders game is going to be fun. I think I got us going 11-6. I think 11-6 is going to be my final prediction.
You got one game better.
Yep. Against this schedule, though, like, whew. Now, again, everyone can get injured. The whole thing's off. But that's kind of what I have. I think that's what makes this draft class so far that the Chargers got so important was, we talked about it on a few episodes before, every player they selected has more talented guys ahead of them. And none of them are starting. You can say Quentin Johnston's technically a starter as wide receiver 3, sure. Everyone else is not. I think that directly affects the underbelly and the depth of this team. So if/when something goes wrong and a player is out, those guys can step up. This is the first year of Brandon Staley's tenure that he's been able to actually draft that way. So the depth will be tested at some point. And that's where this draft class, I think, is going to come to fruition, along with what we saw last year from guys that we just didn't see. Isaiah Spiller, don't know. JT Woods, don't know. Atito was actually starting to perform really well. Then he got hurt. Zion Johnson, now we got Jamari Sawyer. Like, there's a lot of guys that I think are going to be becoming very important, and we're going to need to see kind of show up here. Jazeer Taylor probably is going to have a huge, huge role on this team this year if we don't see Bryce Callahan back. So I have 11 wins. Jake, what say you?
I don't think people really want to know my prediction.
I do. No, they do. They do.
No,
people.
Only a buffoon would give his predictions currently right now. So nobody wants to hear mine. I'm the pessimistic one. Let's keep the hype.
You can't be more pessimistic than HH4. I think he has 5-12. So compared to him, go ahead. I'm not letting you off the hook here.
I probably would put it at the same that I put it last year. Again, we're in May. It's like I said when we were on the live show with the Locked On guys. It's May, but it's a simplistic formula for the Chargers as far as getting back to the playoffs. You got to win your division games. So I say you split with Kansas City. I say you'll split with Denver, and I say that you'll take care of business against the Raiders on both of those games. But you got to win your divisional games first step of getting back to the playoffs, and then handle your business elsewhere. But that's the first step in getting back to the playoffs. And obviously the Chargers have a lot of higher expectations outside of just making the playoffs last year. You actually got to get a W in January now.
I'm getting the reference of the buffoon. I wasn't able to get to the comments. Bart, if you honestly think that Brandon Staley did not get out-coached last year by some teams, like, come on, man.
Sure, hey, man, I'm not saying that he was perfect. He had his good moments and he had his bad moments. Again, I still sit here and I say that the Miami game that he game planned that last year with the players that he had out in that game was perfection. Absolutely.
Honestly, the Colts game on defense was incredible last year.
But
there were some guys hurt, but again, I know that's a different story.
We've seen, unfortunately, a few scenarios where it needs to get better.
All right, so let's go through some of these predictions that some of the listeners have. 12-5 is predicted by Obi-Wan Kavobi. You've got 12 wins by the Wynn family. HH4. See, Jake, you can always be HH4. I see a top 5 draft pick. HH4, I'll put a 30-pack on them not getting a top 5 draft pick. Jake, you in on this? 2 30-packs?
2 30-packs. What are we? What are we?
It could be any type of 30-pack you want. It could be Capri Sun, could be some kind of beer. It doesn't matter. Collectively, we'll bet 60 beverages.
It looks like
you're not a top 5 pick.
It looks like you already got a deal, Dan. Looks like you already got a deal.
Do we? Did he say yes? Do you agree?
Yeah.
Sweet. Cool. All right. You heard it here first. 60 cans or bottles of something on the line here for top 5 pick. I'm not letting this one go. All right, Jake. So Weapon X says 20-0. Got 2 sides of the spectrum here. 8 or 9, 9 and 8. It's predicted by a lot. James Wagner comes in, anxious to see the UDFA outcome. Let's talk about that for a second. Talk about schedule release. Which UDFA? I'll let you only pick one. You pick one, I pick one. Which UDFA do you think impacts this team the most this year?
Impacts this team the most?
Yeah.
I'd probably have to lean towards Gerard Clark in that circumstance. We even saw that Christian Covington was just picked up by the Lions just a few days ago. So Gerard Clark, if he ends up making the team, what was one of the biggest issues that the Chargers had on defense last year? Stopping the run. And if you're looking to a 335-pound girth of a man in Gerard Clark, that's a good place to start. So obviously it's May. We'll see what it looks like come the season. But he's my top choice for making the active roster out of the UDFA crop. And I would say that would make it easy for him to make the biggest impact.
I think for me, it's Taywan Mullen. I think secondary is so big on this team. And we don't know what's going on with JC Jackson and when he's going to come back, but I think that he makes the squad. If you have not gone to see Mullen, again, barring health, which has kind of been his kryptonite, I think he makes the team. And I think he'll be impactful on special teams. I think he's going to show something in the secondary. Scott Childs comes in, says, regardless of schedule, if this team is supposed to be good, I need to see 12 plus wins. Again, if they are supposed to be good. Jake, I ask this to you. Are they good? Yes or you? I'm not letting you wiggle out of this. Yes or no? Is this a good team?
First of all, I don't like regurgitating the same line that we always say at this point of the season. I don't.
I'm 5-letter word. Don't say the 5-letter word.
I'm sick and tired of saying it, Dan, and that's why I won't answer this question, because this is what I will replace it with. It's May. It's May. So what are we talking about? We got a long way to go here, even before the opening of the season. Everybody, all 32 teams right now, are jacked to the tits, are totally optimistic right now that their team is going 18-0 or 17-0 in the regular season. Everybody's optimistic right now. So no, I will not say that. I will simply just say it's May. Let's take it one day at a time. Let's enjoy the ride.
HH4 says he'll put a keg on it. Wink, wink. Hey, we're on. I'm ready. I cannot wait. Jake, what are we going to request? I know we're going to win this. This is easy money.
This is your deal, dude.
You're in on this. No, we're splitting this. We're already splitting on it. So are we doing beer? Is that what we're doing?
Whatever, dude. Whatever.
You don't seem very confident.
It's May, dude. It's May.
Bees DeBoss says 10-7. Athir does not like the bye early.
I don't think anybody should really like the bye. I don't think anybody's optimistic about the bye happening in week 5. You would ideally want that between, weeks 7 and 10. That would be ideal spot for it. So unfortunately, yeah, it's not the best.
Teresa Compapas. The problem is Staley has the game versus the Dolphins where it looks like a genius and followed that up weeks later with that Broncos dud. Again, I think there's a little bit of situational stuff going on there. But yes, the highs and the lows are so drastically different with this defense or with this team, honestly, that it makes it tough to kind of gauge and to judge where exactly they are. Weapon X, I'm pretty sure this was supposed to be funny. When will Max Duggan supplant Herbert for QB1? I'm going to say, honestly, probably preseason game. Game number 1. Max Duggan.
That's a good idea.
I'm begging for it. You heard it here first. Max Duggan becomes QB1 to Justin Herbert's probably QB7 for preseason game number 1.
Watch, they'll probably start Duggan preseason game 3.
either way, he's going to play before Justin Herbert is.
Yeah.
Robert D says 7 AFC teams in a row. At the end, we will have to stay in the AFC playoffs run this year, or we will have a say in the AFC playoff run this year.
Right.
Is that right? Ravens, Patriots, Broncos, Raiders, Bills, Broncos, Chiefs.
It's nasty, dude. Nasty. It's nasty. I haven't seen anybody else's full schedule yet, but that 7-game stretch, I'm going to say that's going to be a bitch. That's going to be a bitch.
Probably.
I'm not sure anybody's going to have a worse 7-game stretch than that. I challenge it. Even for the teams that have the strongest and toughest schedule, I would like to see what their final 7 or 8 games looks like.
Sean Payton's Broncos are the biggest variable in that. If they're much better, that's like a freaking gauntlet. Oof. Athir, hardest road game in Minnesota is Minnesota. Hardest home game, Buffalo. Jake, Dan, what do you guys think? Hardest home game, hardest road game.
I mean, it's tough to. I mean, your mind sometimes automatically just goes to the Chiefs and when you start looking at all these opponents. But the Chargers just always play the Chiefs tough. I don't know what it is. Whether they win the game or they lose the game, they always play the Chiefs tough.
They lose the game in overtime.
Unfortunately, they just they've lost a little bit too recently and too much recently over the last several years. So that's something that needs to be corrected. But if I'm to just take a broad look at this as far as toughest home game, toughest away game, I'm probably going to lean towards, believe it or not, I'm going to lean towards the Ravens. Could be the toughest home game, and the toughest away game, I'm going to say, is either going to be the Jets. Obviously, the Chiefs, that's like common sense because you're in Arrowhead. Obviously, that
Austin,
makes
you could say the Chiefs home and away are going to be the toughest games. They're the defending Super Bowl champs in your own division.
But I think at this point in time, but I think at this point in time of the season when they're playing him, if the Jets start off hot, if Aaron Rodgers is fully committed to this offense, and you already know what the Jets are defensively, they could be once again a top 5 defense if they actually have some good quarterback play on their team. So either that one or New England, just because Belichick just knows how to play against Herbert.
All right. So again, we're taking out the Chiefs as a possible answer because I think that's the answer for both if we needed to. Hardest home game to me is probably... I might give it to the Bills. I might say the Bills game, especially considering the time of year that's going to be at. That's going to be fun. That's going to be like huge, possibly huge playoff implications. Away game? It's not the Broncos. It's not the Raiders. It's not the Patriots. That Jets one seems tough. It's probably Jets or Vikings. I'm going to go Jets only because that defense is already pretty good, and they had like no quarterback play. And I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers is going to be just like MVP, which he might be, but like even if he's just like above average with that receiving core, with that running back room, with that defense, that's a tough one. I might go Jets. Yeah, I think I'm going to go Jets, Bills, home and away. We've got folks in the comments saying, amen, brother. Jake, you're too rational. Great compliment for you.
What can I say?
HH4 predicts 4-0 in the preseason. Gotta love that. Akili asks, do you guys think the Chargers are going to get John Johnson III? Interesting comments we had from one Jeff Miller on our last episode. If you have not gone and listened to that, please do so. He talked about, from what it seemed like, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm not spreading any rumors here. I'm paraphrasing what Jeff Miller said. It sounds like that rumor mill is more coming from external sources than internal sources. And it doesn't seem like there is much of a shot at that happening. According to Jeff Miller and according to what he's heard, it seems like more of a long shot than what people are probably assuming. Came as a surprise to me too. What does that say to you though? So like, if it was me, if you put it percentage-wise, if it was before our conversation with Jeff Miller, I'd probably say like 75%. If it was after the Jeff Miller conversation, I'd probably say less than 50. So let's say you.
Yeah, I was surprised by it. I safety is something that we were kind of expecting. Even a DB in general was something that we were expecting the Chargers to go after in the draft, and they didn't. So that's either putting a lot of faith in JT Woods, or you're being fully committed to Alohi Gilman standing next to Derwin James back there. It just doesn't seem to me that between now and the start of the season that either one of those guys is going to be the starting safety. So whether the John Johnson rumors end up resurfacing, or if you have a surprise cut by another team that the Chargers go after, I still think this is one of the spots that you commit to getting stronger at.
Folks are saying some of the toughest games, home or away. Road game, I would be shocked if they won against New England. James Wagner says Jets away, Chiefs home are the two hardest one. Lots of folks are talking about the Jets. Don't sleep on New England. Leo comes in. Jake, you remind me of my ex-wife. Wow. Lots of opinions, no commitment. LOL. I will say, I agree with Leo specifically on the record. Otherwise, I don't know your ex-wife. I have no idea. Jake's a great guy. I don't blame Jake for saying it's married.
Look, Leo, if you were an optimist like Dan, then I apologize for disappointing you. But this is the dichotomy of this show. You have the optimist. If you choose to side with Dan, you can, by all means, please side with Dan. And truthfully, I wish I was more optimistic about it as well. But we've all watched this team now for the last several years through different coaches, through different quarterbacks. We've seen this movie. We've seen this movie over and over and over and over and over again.
So kind. You're so kind. I would not be this kind if I was you.
Hey, man, okay. There's sarcasm and humor are like
there's optimism,
second languages to me, my
and
friend.
then there's HH4. So you're in between, so it's fine, no problem. Look, Kate asks, why do we always have a late game at Denver? Well, honestly, it's because they play in our division, and it most likely will always end up being that way every other year. So,
got a 1 in 3 shot of it happening every single year.
Yes. Leo comes in. It's all good. I enjoy you guys. Obviously, this is all fun and games. No one takes us that seriously, including ourselves. Jake, so in terms of strength of schedule, you said the 12 number in terms of 12 hardest, I believe you said, in terms of strength of schedule?
Tied for 12th in terms of difficulty for strength of schedule.
Do you think that holds up looking at this schedule? A lot of times they'll say 12th and then, moving forward in the season, it ends up, some of these teams suck. Like, do you think it's, is it harder?
I think it has a better chance of getting harder, believe it or not. Especially if we get to that Ravens game and you look at all those teams' record by that point. And Dan, as you mentioned, the Broncos are kind of the outlier. So if you're looking at all these teams that are above, 500 or 600 as far as their record percentage goes at that point of the season, good Lord. Good Lord, man.
Honestly, I think it depends on the Broncos. I think that's the variable for me. If the Broncos are good this year, God, that's tough. They're going to have to stack some wins together early. They need to go 3-1 early in the season. Because closing out games, just look at this. So regardless of home and away and all that jazz, you got to play Dolphins, Titans, Vikings. All three of those teams either playoffs or contention. Were the Titans in the playoffs this last year? Or did they lose the playoffs?
They got knocked out by the Jacksonville. Yeah.
All right. So they were all within a game. Dolphins, playoff team. Titans were in the play-in game, if you will. Vikings, playoff team. Raiders, whatever. Bye week. Cowboys, playoff team. Chiefs, playoff team. Bears, we don't know. Jets should have been a playoff team if their offense did anything. Lions should have been a playoff team. They went 8 of 9 at the end of the season, beat the Packers, eliminated them from the playoffs. Packers are on the cusp. We have no idea what they're going to be with Jordan Love. Ravens could easily be a playoff team. Patriots could easily be a playoff team. Broncos, no clue. Raiders, Bills, playoff team, obviously. And the Chiefs. There's a lot of freaking playoffs, 8 to 10 playoff teams that we're playing up against. And historically, unfortunately, the Chargers don't do great against playoff teams. Now, will they this year? We'll find out. I'm not sure. Any other kind of key takeaways, Jake? Obviously, we can go to town on the schedule released by the Chargers and that video that we could just go on and on and on about because there's some gold. If you have not seen it, please go watch it.
Yes, definitely. Takeaways here, Dan. I think it's more of when you see the schedule now as it is, what, especially those last 7 games of the season, you would, I think what it is that we're all hoping for. And again, we're in May, so everybody's expectations through the roof. Everybody's excited about things like this. We're after the draft. We got training camp to look forward to here in the next several weeks. But I think it's more of what is it that Brandon Staley is going to learn in his 3rd season as the head coach. And you pounce on the opportunity to go out and get Kellen Moore when the word came down that Dallas was not retaining him. So you would expect offensively for there to be better flow, better creativity, better handling of it in terms between coach and personnel, especially at the quarterback position, and getting Justin Herbert back to the form that we once saw in 2020. We've heard the messages from Brandon Staley saying that what he wants out of this offense is to be able to put up points. Chargers were not good when it came to just overall points per game last year as far as putting them up against opponents. They have to do better at that. They have to be more consistent at that. When you have the weapons that you do now, when you have this arsenal for Justin Herbert, when you have a better offensive line that you have put the commitment to in building over these last 3 years, you have to get some better results out of it. And yes, we are talking about a Justin Herbert that was injured in week 2, still battled through it, did not have his best season statistically, but still was able to manage something and get to the playoffs out of it, which is great given those circumstances. But you get everybody back. And I don't want to say a few of the cursed things as far as 5-letter phrase or anything that has to do with player availability. I don't want to say those because I hate saying those, because I hate using those as excuses. But you would expect from a coaching standpoint that Brandon Staley is going to be able to learn a few things, take some of the things that he needs to grow from over the last 2 years, and build this into a week-to-week game plan that he could capitalize on to not only get this team back to the playoffs, but to be able to actually make a legitimate run.
I tweeted about this earlier, but there's so many storylines in this upcoming season, obviously against the teams we're playing, but just internally as a Chargers team, redemption season, so to speak. You look at, Justin Herbert, 27-0. Again, that's not on him, but partially it's on him. Coming back from all the injuries, he had surgery. JC Jackson, we've all talked about we've seen his story. We know that. So many injuries. Keenan Allen was out for so long last year. Rashawn Slater was out for so long last year. There's a lot of guys. Austin Johnson was gone.
And look, again, I hate using that excuse. I know it's part of the game, and that's why I don't want to poo-poo it. I don't want to dismiss it because I know it's part of the game. But the good coaches, like I said last year, Dan, good, experienced, championship caliber coaches are able to adapt to that. And especially when you have good offensive coordinators that are partnered. You can game plan.
I'm not going to get into it that much, but I think going 10-7 through all of that, I think it means that they adapted well. The 27-0 lead they blew, obviously, that stings and that makes everything moot. But 10-7 in a brutal schedule with how many guys that they had out, I don't think that's a lot.
No, it's still a testament. They were very resilient there. And again, everybody thought when Derwin James was out in the Miami game that they were going down in that game.
Yes.
And then Brandon Staley pulls one out of his bag and coaches his ass off in that game. And that, thankfully for them to make a push to the playoffs, that trend continued for, not every one of their last final games, but they made a nice run, and that's what able to bring them to the playoffs. But Brandon Staley needs more of that consistency, more of that, even just not from a week to week, quarter to quarter. Dan, how many times, unfortunately, it wasn't until the Colts and the Rams games where you really just started seeing domination from both teams. And that's not what I'm asking for this year, but you just would hope to see a little bit better consistency, both offensive and defensively throughout the season.
Robert D says some good trainers would be nice. Too many hurt players took too long to even get back. Again, just to not necessarily push back all the way, but last year was brutal. Year before that, Chargers were among the healthiest in the entire NFL. So, like, I know recency bias, it hurts, but like they were good last year, or good 2 years ago, excuse me. Last year they were not. So hopefully we see things going their way again this year. That'd be nice. So what's next, Jake? We got lots of questions here, by the way. People are asking about some players on how we think they're going to do. Do we see Achilles Smith asks, do you guys think Isaiah Spiller is going to be much improved this year? For folks in the comments, if you're watching live, we've reached the Q&A portion of the show. Give us your thoughts, topics, questions. We'll do our best to kind of get through as many of these as we can as we kind of wrap up. We got about 15 minutes here at most. So yeah, ask the questions, put the topics in the comments, do our best. Jake, Isaiah Spiller, improved this year?
I mean, it depends on what would you necessarily classify as improved. Unfortunately, we barely got a chance to see Isaiah Spiller last year. And for whatever reason, we can, try to pull back the layers of that onion to solve that mystery. But truly, I think, as we were talking about with Jeff Miller yesterday on the show, I think it was a big indictment that the Chargers did not go out and target a running back in the draft. Obviously, so many people were thinking that the Chargers were going to select Bijan Robinson at 21. And if it wasn't there, then what was going to happen with, Austin Eckler? Were the Chargers going to end up trading him during the draft? No. I think the biggest endorsement for him is that the Chargers did not go out and sign a free agent. You didn't go out and you sign a free agent and draft a running back. So I think that this team actually has a lot of high hopes for him. And the Chargers still need to find that second head of this two-headed running back unit that the Chargers have been trying to build for the last couple of years, and they just haven't found it. And yet they have drafted 3 running backs in the last 4 years in Larry Roundtree, Joshua Kelly, and Isaiah Spiller. So I think especially with Kellen Moore, from what we know, what he ran at the Dallas Cowboys, I think there's going to be much more of an emphasis to get better results out of the run game, not just from the offensive line, but from the running backs that are utilized. And I think he's going to have a much better decisive idea as far as how the personnel is going to be paced.
James Wagner says, I believe that the deep threat potential that Kellen Moore talks about, the importance of fast scoring with his offense, is well promising. I agree. I think we're going to see a very different looking Chargers offense this year. The Chargers offense, I don't want to say the Chargers offense was bad last year, because they still put up numbers, but the manner in which they did so was just so maybe not vanilla, maybe like chocolate chip. It could have been worse, but put a little chocolate chips in there, I guess, make it a little better. But Kellen Moore offenses look incredibly different than what Lombardi was bringing for 2 years. Whether it's deep threats, whether it's kind of the creativity, explosiveness, getting guys in the right space, pushing the ball downfield, all of that stuff. The run game, we might actually see something this year from guys, including Austin Eckler and Isaiah Spiller. I agree, James. I think this offense is going to look very different. The Wynn family asks, what's your thoughts on getting a solid backup center with our veteran center injuries?
Well, you brought back Will Clapp as a re-signed him as a free agent. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that little pun. So you at least have depth there. Do the Chargers, choose to go out and tackle that position this year? I think they've already done enough for the offensive line to reload that, especially from the depth standpoint. If they were to go out and get a backup center, you'd probably say next year would probably be the year if they're going to keep this trend going of reinvesting in the offensive line.
Yeah, and don't forget they have Jordan McFadden, the guy that they got out of Clemson, has experience playing center as well. He's played all 5 positions on the line. So I don't necessarily think they need to go backup center other than what they already have. I probably wouldn't see it happening, especially with kind of the roster construction. How do you think they're going to use Xander Horvath?
I mean, I'll say this about Xander Horvath's usage in the first 2 weeks of the season last year. I loved it. I just wish we could have seen more of it, because he put 2 touchdowns on the board for himself in the first 2 weeks of the season. And then when it got to those goal line scenarios, it's like we never saw those type of creative plays again, unfortunately. I'm hoping that if you've been watching his workout videos, I mean, he was already built like a truck when he came onto this team. He looks like he's working to get better, bigger and better. And so hopefully you would expect that, especially from a blocking standpoint, which this team sorely needs in the running game, that he's going to be a big part of that. So I would hope that in year 2, with an emphasis on the running game with Kellen Moore, that he's going to have to be better.
All right, 2 other questions coming in here, Jake. I'll let you decide which one to go first. Would you rather talk about the UCLA undrafted free agent chances of making the team, or the Chargers release video and the shade to it, the Raiders fans?
Surprise me.
All right, let's go with the Chargers throwing shade at the Raiders fans. Jake, did you see? Everyone talks about how incredible this video was. And there are layers to this for Raiders fans. So I have a screen grab here for folks who are listening. There's a question here that asked, have you guys seen the QR code in the Chargers schedule release video? So in a ATM machine at the Fantasy Treasure Resort, FTR, they get a cash out voucher for $72,750,000. Ring a bell.
Minus.
Voucher.
Don't forget the minus.
Look at the small print. Voucher not valid for full season. Another one in bold, not redeemable for the wedding invite. Jake, by the way, did you? I just saw this. Did you see the records they have on the right for the barcode? Their serial number, whatever it is, they got 6 and 11, 10 and 7, 8 and 8, 7 and 9, 4 and 12, 6 and 10.
I did not catch that. So good.
And then finally, Jake, the QR code, which this completely slipped my mind. I didn't see this until someone mentioned it to me on Twitter. Jake, if you click that, if you open that up on a photo and you click it, it brings you to a link on the Chargers website that says, click here if you're a Chargers fan. Click here if you are a Raiders fan. If you click on the Raiders one, it literally brings up a Google search of how to get a job. You cannot.
I mean,
you cannot make this up.
Take a bow.
I mean, there are levels. Like
they've done it again.
Man,
they've done it again.
It was so good. It was so good. I think Vic Taffer put out a tweet that says Chargers fans are not, or Raiders fans are not going to like the release in 15 minutes or whatever he said. Do you think it had to do with this?
I'm not sure if it had to do with this. I didn't get a chance to watch their schedule release video, but holy hell. I mean, dude, I personally thought the best nugget that they did last year was when they did the Jacksonville game with the Urban Meyer shade with the Jaguar in the place of it, where the pictures were taking of him in that bar. I thought that was great. Not just from what they did with the Raiders, but there's so many little nuggets in all of these that they just, I felt like they one up themselves. And when you really just didn't think that they could.
Did you see the Lions one?
Saw the Lions one. The Lions one had me rolling. The Lions one was the first one that I actually caught and stopped the video. And look, they're just trying to help some people and remind them, if you have issues.
What was better, the gambling one for the Lions or the Jaguars one last year?
I would probably say the Jaguars one of last year. That one really got me. And that was great.
That was like a meme for 6 months. With the Jaguars one. All right, lots of questions here. Who feels the most heat from the rookies? Josh Palmer, Rumph, or Murray?
Oof.
Josh Palmer would be getting heat from Quentin Johnston. Chris Rumph from Thule. Kenneth Murray from Kendricks. And Dayon Henley.
I would probably say it's going to be Chris Rumph.
Not Murray. I think it's Murray.
Well, and this is why I say this. Because as we saw last year, when the Chargers had Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa on the field at the same time and healthy, mind you, they were a pretty damn good tandem. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to see it that much. And when that incident happened with Joey Bosa going down with his groin injury, the Chargers had to try to figure out ways to get to the passer in different ways. So you try to bring in Morgan Fox, rotate him along the line. You had obviously Kyle Van Noy that you had to shift from where you wanted to originally start him at linebacker and bring him in as an emergency edge. Thankfully for the Chargers, late in the season is when he really started to come on. But outside of that, the Chargers really didn't have anything in their pass rushing department to get to the quarterback. So I think on this, for this being year 3 with Chris Rump and obviously Thule coming in and with his versatility skills that he has, and the Chargers have, I can't remember who it was that said it specifically, but they are going to keep Thule on the edge. But I would still love to see what they could do with him. I know his size just kind of puts him in that tweener aspect as far as, inside, outside, where you're going to play him. I still think he dominates the most on the outside. That's what's best for him. So I think in that circumstance, when you are absolutely needing to get after opposing quarterbacks, I think Thule is going to, if he isn't penciled in as edge 3 already, he will be soon. I'll just say that much.
The Wynn family asks, do you think the UCLA tight end UDFA stays on the team? Jake, I want to answer this quickly. No.
I was going to give a little bit more of an elaborate answer, but it was still going to be the same kind of answer, and Dan just shortened it for me.
I don't, unfortunately, for him. But hey, I could be wrong. Let's get some of the other questions. We've got Jorge Rodriguez coming in here with Du Bois. Bees Da Boss is asking, the Achilles Smith? Thoughts on Will Clapp and Duke Manyweather?
Anybody who is training with Duke Manyweather right now is doing something right. That's what I will say.
Robert D says the Lions game may bite us in the ass if they all will be back to play by that week, which he's not wrong.
It's going to be tough.
He's not wrong. And Jake, I got to show this because it's just too funny. Absolute troll job by the Chargers in this one. You can't make this stuff up. Again, for folks who are listening only, they have the crisis hotline.
Even if you read all this, they're even shading the Lions draft in this, Dan. You read that last sentence? On behalf of questionable draft picks, lines and odds subject to change. And obviously everybody was questioning their selections of Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell in the first round. And just like that little nugget in there is just another one that they are adding on top of the cake.
I'm going to go through this just a little bit here. Did you see the Week 11 Chargers-Packers shade that they put on the background on the to-do list for the Packers? Another Pat McAfee interview, tweet vaguely, do my own research, and schedule. I don't know what that I don't know what that part is. Do you know what that part's about?
I can't remember if that was when he's talking about when Rodgers was talking about his darkness references. I thought he was talking about something that, God, I'm trying to think of like the word for it, but I thought there was something that he would say that he would take for like calmness, almost like think of it as like something, like for weed, but it was something different. He was talking about, I remember this, he was talking about this on McAfee, and I can't remember the name of it. He was talking about some type of drug that he was taking to calm him down. And maybe that's it.
The Patriots one is great with Bill Belichick just plugged into all of the cameras, all of the stadiums, all the different angles.
That one's pretty God mode. That's an awesome shot.
Totally, it's like a Thanos moment for sure. What did you think? Honestly, the Raiders one is so good. They threw shade at the Bills, burning all their Super Bowl appearances. I mean,
look.
No, the Chiefs one. The
Chiefs one was for the Cops. Chiefs one was fantastic.
Oh, I was dying. Jake, or folks in the comments, what was this reference? You saw Pat McAfee,
AJ Hawk there. I'm not sure why they are the ones that are pursuing the Chiefsaholics fans. I was trying to understand this one as well, as far as why they were plugged into the Chargers video. Definitely not a bad thing. I love it. You're bringing in everybody. They even had the Mina Kimes drop in. They had the Skip Bayless, and I can't remember. I couldn't tell if that was either Stephen A. Smith or Shannon Sharp across from him. But I'm like, okay, just dropping random stuff here. This one, holy hell!
So many on the Jets
of Zach Wilson. My God, single Cougars in your area.
You've got on the top out of Green Bay, up in age, the top right. Italian authentic pizza. Rex's damn snack bar. Ice cream is sold out. Pizza Rat strikes again. I mean, this thing just didn't miss. I mean, this is too good. Comeback player of the year, Geno Smith here on the right-hand side. New York Sack Exchange. Like they didn't stop. Anything else, Jake? This is a little salty here. If you look at the Dak Prescott one, especially considering the Chargers also were kind of known to, self-inflicted wounds in the last part of the game. Just going to put that out there. Talked about the Raiders, talked about the Vikings, talked about the Titans. Well done. Chargers social team, Chargers content team. You guys crushed it as always. I don't think we asked this one, Jake. Most anticipated home game.
Most anticipated home game.
I think it's
I think we answered. There have been few week one games that I have been like legitimately amped for. Obviously, everybody's amped for week one and the beginning of the NFL season. But going up against the Dolphins, I mean, for as long as Justin Herbert and Tua will be playing against one another, these matchups are going to be so much hype behind it. And it only escalates from here. So to have it to kick off the regular season when you know what both of these teams have done to build their teams up better. Oh, yeah. It's hard for me to think of a week one matchup that I have been that anticipated about.
Week one at home against the Dolphins with all the storylines there, all of the hype, all of the anticipation of this Chargers offense going up against this Dolphins offense. Got Quentin Johnston now, Darius Davis now injecting speed. He's got that Tyreek Hill speed. He legit has the Tyreek Hill speed. That's Darius Davis's favorite player as well on offense. You get to see tailgating at SoFi. Thunder Alley is going to be wild. Honestly, I think the Chargers offense is going to shock some people this year. And there's going to be some, I use this word sometimes during the season, Jake, but euphoric moments. Like I'm just waiting for some of the creativity that you see from Kellen Moore, where you and I are both just going to sit back and just be like, that felt like a psychedelic drug. All right, last call for questions. We're in our final few minutes here. Again, if you're watching, tuning in live, please do us a favor, hit that like and subscribe button. Put a comment in there. Let us know what your thoughts are on the episode. Give us your feedback, honest feedback. How are we doing? What can we do to improve? We love constructive criticism. That's honestly what makes all of us better, including yourselves. Jake, any last minute thoughts on the Chargers schedule?
Bravo. Take a bow. Holy shit. That's all I got to say. You did it. You did it again. And it's the Chargers social media team still remains undefeated. Well done.
James Wagner says, we will have some legit speed to introduce to Miami. Chorizo Cone Papas asks, Kellen Moore one and done guaranteed?
I wouldn't necessarily say guaranteed, but that is one thing that we have to think about, that if Kellen Moore really, puts a jolt into this offense and makes it consistently produce, you better believe that if it's not the Chargers that are going to end up promoting him to head coach, that he's going to get head coaching interviews elsewhere, and he's gotten those in the past. So there could be a really good chance that he may be with the Chargers for a very short period of time.
Francis Balon asks, how long Staley's leashes? You said, I think it's 2 episodes ago, you said he has to win a playoff game.
Yes, that would be my expectation. Anything that we know from the Spanos family is that I don't think that there's out of the last 4 head coaches in Norv Turner, McCoy, Anthony Lynn, and now Staley, I don't think there's any of those that he has, split from before 4 years is done. So think about that what you will. He is patient when it comes to that. Whether people view that as a good thing or a bad thing, I totally get you either way. But I think this year it's different when you have a quarterback like Justin Herbert and especially one that's coming up for a contract year that you expect him to re-sign. And I think that they do like this whole notion of continuity, especially for a guy like Justin Herbert, who going back to his college days had a lot of coaching turnover. So do I think that it's going to happen? I won't guarantee that. We'll see what Brandon Staley is able to produce out of this team this year. But I would not be surprised if the Chargers miss the playoffs. That as close as we were to everybody basically saying after the debacle in Jacksonville that things needed to change, it would be tough. It would be a tough decision to make.
Teresa Combe-Papa says, the football gods curse us with another wild card weekend collapse. Is Staley gone? I'm a big Staley supporter. I think the answer is yes. Do you agree?
I would have to agree in that scenario. Yes.
Yeah, that'd be tough. Obi-Wan Kavobi asked a question, and this is a two-parter. If Kellen's offense is a top 5 unit, Staley's defense looks subpar. Kellen is promoted. Spanos made a 2-1 move. Thoughts? And then that was followed up by, imagine Herbert having his OC for the rest of his career instead of a revolving door at OC. Interesting.
Don't know. I mean, that's another one of the scenarios that could possibly play out. We'll see what happens.
Hey, let's let that. There's a lot of what ifs in there, to be honest.
Guys, it's May. It's May. We haven't even started the season yet. Oh my Lord.
I snipe stuff. I see 8 and 9 season. What say you? Talked about records. We talked about predictions earlier in the season, although it is May, like Jake says. I have the Chargers winning 11 games as of today. Jake has them winning 10 games as of today. Again, went over the Chargers schedule week by week, including the bye, toughest opponents, etc. L Chief Jeebus wouldn't be a Chargers Unleashed without Vampire Jake. I think that might be either a lighting reference or
I don't
just
have
the fact that you love scary movies.
Well, it's okay. I could take this one, Dan. So number one, no, I don't have the best lighting in here. Number two, I'm Irish, Scottish, and German, so I rarely ever look, tan or anything like that.
He looks white in person as well.
And even when I do, it's after I get sunburned. So I know I appreciate the vampire reference, and I actually take that as a compliment because, as Dan said, I actually am a horror movie nerd when it comes to those things.
Yes. Look, El Chief's loving it. Obi-Wan Kavobi says, I want an offensive-minded head coach for Herbert for an eternity. Sue me, Jake. James Wagner is going to help us get out of here. James says, you guys have a great evening and weekend. Got to deliver in Savannah, Georgia in the morning. Love the show. Great content. God bless. With like 6 exclamation points. Jake, live shows are always fun. Love doing these with you as well as all of the viewers and listeners. We got a fun show coming up here. Sneak peek. We got another special guest coming in most likely this week, maybe next week, but stay tuned. I think you're going to love this one. Kind of comes in the same lens as we've had here in the last few weeks. Jake, you can find him at the wonderful Jake D. Hefner, but don't put the wonderful. I'm just saying he is wonderful. He's at Jake D. Hefner. Myself, you can find at Dan W. Sports. Guys, gals, thank you so much for tuning in Chargers Unleashed. We'll talk to you next time as we talk more about this Chargers team in the 2023 season. Have a great evening. We'll talk to you later. Bye.